Top of the morning to you, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Silverstones. It's minus 38 degrees today in Manitoba. Minus 38, with the wind chill, of course. Not to be confused with the wind shield, as many people refer to it as. But either way, I'm pretty thankful to be sitting inside, talking to a webcam, talking to you. We're doing our weekly news show, 21 Milli, real news for real people. 21 Milli, of course, stands for 21 million Bitcoin, which is the maximum amount of Bitcoin that will ever exist. So we're talking about Bitcoin, we're talking about NFTs, silver, and some other stuff today. Pour yourself a coffee and let's get the heck into it. Oh, it's hot. Start with the price of Bitcoin. It's been hovering between 16,000 and 17,000 US dollars for about a month now, maybe more. The good news is there hasn't been a lot of news about Bitcoin. We've seen the last week, the price shot up. I forget what day it was, but the price shot up about $1,000. And that was because there was a bank run happening on Binance. People were taking all their Bitcoin off of the exchange. And so Binance had to turn around and buy a bunch of Bitcoin to facilitate these withdrawals, which shot up the price. Only lasted about a day probably, and then it came back down. But that's where we're at. Thankfully, there hasn't been any sort of news. We're just going to let Bitcoin do what it does and watch the demand increase while the supply decreases over time, which is the best economic formula on the planet, in my opinion. Let's start with a meme like we always do. And always me figuring out how to do this, the weekly episode. Jeez. It's a good thing we're not doing these live yet. Here it is. Imagine living through the last 3 years and still not being the slightest bit suspicious. The good news is there's not a whole lot of people who fit into this category anymore. More and more every day, the people I talk to are starting to come to the realization that there's a lot more to the world than what we're shown in our tiny little window. Whether that's media, whether that's government, the central banks, Hollywood, whatever it may be, people are starting to wake up to the fact that something's a little bit off here. They can feel it in their stomach. And that's probably why you're watching this show. And once again, if you're offended or triggered by anything that I say, you might be in a few minutes here, but this is probably the wrong channel for you. So let's carry on. But how this is happening is through exponential growth. And I have a video that I'm going to show a little bit later on. It's a 2-minute video that explains exponential growth, where one person tells 2 people, those 2 people tell 4 people, and those 4 people tell 8 people, and so on and so forth. And that's how things really come to light. And that's kind of what we're living through right now. Part of that is things coming out, being exposed, unsealed documents. And part of it is people realizing that and then looking for alternatives. And Bitcoin is one of those alternatives. So very exciting things, I think, in the future. I'm very optimistic about it, as I've mentioned before. But let's go to the next one here. This one's related specifically to Bitcoin. So the crowd there on the left side, the majority, this would have been a few years ago, or maybe still to this day, but they're saying Bitcoin's worthless. Bitcoin's used by criminals, illicit activity. Bitcoin uses too much energy, blah, 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 climate change. And then there's a small group of Bitcoiners kind of just ignoring those people, knowing the truth behind Bitcoin. And then we move to the next part of this, where there's a smaller group on the left, a bigger group on the right. They're still shouting Bitcoin is for criminals. Bitcoin uses too much energy, carbon, blah, blah, blah. But the group on the right is growing. And then the final part is that there's a very small minority there still thinking about yelling at the huge group of Bitcoiners on the right side there. And part of this is exponential growth. One of those people tells 2 people, and so on. I think that the video is a really good demonstration of that, and I'll get to that in a couple seconds here. But the next part is talking about NFTs. And this was kind of the big news last week, if you want to call it that. There was a ton of different opinions and things happened. This was related to Trump's NFT collection that he came out with. But before we go any further, because I'll probably take some flack for talking about Trump, but I'm honestly past the point of caring, because these are facts. And without getting too emotional about anything, let's look at a few facts here to do with Donald Trump, the 45th president of the USA. What do we know? We know that he did not take a salary in 4 years as president. He's the first president to actually leave the White House poorer than when he went into it. You see all these other politicians, they're either career politicians or they get into politics and they do these different policies and they come out much more wealthy than when they came into politics. Trump's the reverse of that. So he did not take a salary, zero. That's how much he took from the government. He started 0 wars. These are facts. Hard to hear for some people, but 0 wars. He negotiated several or dozens of peace deals, which were somewhat talked about within the media, but very poorly covered, in my opinion. But most importantly, Trump wanted to, and he actively talked about ending the Federal Reserve, ending the central banks, and what kind of stranglehold they put on the people. And we've seen other presidents before that do that as well. One was JFK, probably the most infamous one. He was assassinated. Thankfully, Trump has not been assassinated yet, but I still feel like Trump's moving towards that mission of ending the central banks, the Federal Reserve. And so what does he do with that? He launches an NFT. Everybody was shitting on Trump last week, saying that it was the stupidest thing they'd ever seen. Either way, the NFT collection, he sold 45,000 of them in 10 or 12 hours and $4 million. So they sold out completely. Here's one of the ones he released, superhero collection. So these all sold for $99 each. They sold out. I'm going to get to a few different theories, questions in a bit. But what are they selling for now? So this is on OpenSea. It's an NFT marketplace online where you can buy and sell NFTs. And the floor price for these Trump NFTs right now is about 0.25 of an Ethereum. And I don't even know what the Ethereum is because I'm not a big Ethereum guy myself. Ethereum is $1,200, so that would be $300 for one of these. So it's already gone up significantly from $99 to $300 already. But let's talk about why Trump issued NFTs, because that's what everybody's wondering. And I had a few people reach out to me last week and say, what the pluck is Trump doing? Why is he selling NFTs? What does this have to do with anything? Why? That's the question, is why? And I didn't really have an answer to it, but the more and more I dig into this, I came up with a few of my own theories. But I'm going to talk about what he could have done differently. And you have to ask why he didn't do that. The first thing is, why wouldn't Trump just release a silver coin? It would have been much more welcomed and I think accepted by most people if he released a silver coin. He would have got everybody's mailing addresses if he's wanting to run for election in 2024 again. He'd have all their contact information, their mailing address. He probably could have sold much more than that. $4 million to Trump, $4 million to me, obviously is a ton of money. But to Trump, that's almost like a rounding error. So I don't believe that he did it for the money. I could be wrong. Maybe he just wants to take a nice holiday somewhere. I feel like Trump doesn't really need $4 million. So why did he do this? My opinion is that he's trying to get the majority of people who support him but haven't dabbled into the Bitcoin, the crypto stuff. He wants to get people downloading wallets, using the wallets, exchanging back and forth, trying to figure out what it is. And I think that he may have accomplished that in a way. But why? Because Trump has openly said that he thinks that Bitcoin seems like a scam. That's what he said. But we also know that Donald Jr., his son, owns Bitcoin. He's been public about that. His wife, Melania, she has her own NFT collection. His daughter, Ivanka, accepts Bitcoin for her real estate, like as rent for her real estate properties. And General Flynn, one of Trump's closest allies, tweeted in 2015 saying that Bitcoin is the future. He showed a picture of someone using a Bitcoin ATM back in 2015, saying that this is digital gold, this is the future. So it seems like Trump himself hasn't openly came out and said he promotes Bitcoin, but everybody around him, his closest friends and family, all are in Bitcoin and using Bitcoin and NFTs. And so I think that this was kind of the final, no, maybe not the final, but the first push to get people downloading wallets, using it, familiarized with it. Because back in 2020, when Trump was president, the US Postal Service filed a patent for voting system combining mail and a blockchain. So back in 2020, the US Postal Service filed for a patent that uses blockchain technology in elections. And we've all seen Trump talk about elections, how much he hates the machines, the voting machines, how much he hates mail-in ballots, and he wants to do a physical count. But this is kind of one step above that, in my opinion. If you were to incorporate the blockchain into voting, I think that would bring a whole nother layer of transparency, which we almost have zero transparency at this point. Close to zero. There were some elections in different states that were run very well. Florida would be one. And there were elections that were run very poorly, which would be Arizona. So the states all have different ways of doing it. But if you had a blockchain and this patent be utilized, not only in the US, but around the world, I think we'd see a lot more transparent and fair elections. So I think that this might be coming down the line at some point. Whether Trump specifically talks about this or not time will tell. But that's my opinion on it. NFTs can also be used to don't forget about the fact that NFTs can also be used to transfer information on the blockchain. So instead of sending out a tweet, Trump could actually encrypt something within each NFT for people to open up, look at. And it's just another way of transferring information to kind of go around the legacy system, the legacy media, and legacy platforms. So that's my spin on it. I mean, if you think about it logically, I don't think that Trump did this for $4 million profit. That's my opinion. So there's always more to the story with Trump. And what is it here? I don't know. This is just my theory on it. So in other news, one of the three-letter agencies kind of admitted that they killed another three-letter president. The US unsealed a bunch of documents. This is about how much airtime this has received. It was about 10 seconds yesterday or the day before, and we're moving on to the next thing. But the US unsealed thousands of classified JFK documents, and it showed that one of the three-letter agencies basically played a much bigger part in the assassination than a lone gunman. And there were a lot of people who already had come to this conclusion that he didn't act alone. There was more to the story. But the fact that everything just kind of gets broadcast for 20 seconds and then goes back into swept under the rug is concerning to me. And that's part of the reason why I started doing this channel and this 21 Milli news network, is because by the time it goes in and out, whether it's covered or not by the mainstream, a lot of people just aren't really up to speed with a lot of the actual news that happens around the world. So there's lots to unpack there, and I hope that we learn more. I hope that there's more than Fox News is willing to cover this story in the next couple months, but we'll see. But why did the blank kill JFK? Why did they assassinate him? Well, I think that silver had a big part of that. And JFK infamously was known for trying to end the central banks and the enslavement of people. This was back in the 1960s. So JFK, prior to this, the US was using silver for their coins, 90% silver, which is written in the US Constitution that every silver coin must have at least 90% of silver in it. I believe, anyways, fact check me if I'm wrong. Put it in the comments below if I'm an idiot. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. And so JFK wanted to release his own Kennedy dollar, and he did. And then he was assassinated. And then months after that, they decided that they're going to end silver coinage and they're going to start making these coins that we now know as less silver, much less silver in them. So let's look at the time frame here. Let's look at this chronologically. Early 1960s, JFK wants to release a JFK, the Kennedy dollar, into the world and essentially free society from the enslavement of the central banks. He gets shot in the head. Months later, they take the silver off the market and they continue using paper dollars, but it's still backed by gold at this point. Fast forward 5 years to 1971, or 5 or 6 years to 1971. Nixon takes the US off the gold standard, and our money basically turns into monopoly money. And that's what we've lived with for 50 years now. Very, very depressing to think about that. And so what I'm hoping comes out in the future is not only do we learn the truth about what happened with JFK, people start to become more familiar with what actually happens with our money, why we're not taught about money in school. And that leads to us maybe adopting the gold standard or a Bitcoin standard, but taking some step forward and getting off of this fake illusionary monopoly money that we use now. Like I said, I'm probably going to take a bunch of flack for this episode, but whatever. It is what it is. People are for some reason terrified of truth. And I don't know why that is, but more and more people are starting to wake up to this fact. More and more people are starting to use Bitcoin as an alternative, or at least get their feet wet. And I'm seeing this with my own eyes day in and day out. There's more people reaching out to me. There's more people who are signing up for exchanges and purchasing their first amount of Bitcoin. And we're going to watch this video. It's only 2 minutes long, but it shows the example of exponential growth. Oh, it started. There we go.
Now you can see for ourselves what exponential growth looks like by doing a little experiment. So if we can bring one of the handheld cameras in, we can have a look at this. So in this box, I have 225 armed mouse traps. And on each mouse trap, we have a ping pong ball. Now in a moment, we're going to take one more ping pong ball and we're going to drop it in through this hole in the top. And it's going to set off a chain reaction. And in this chain reaction, the number of ping pong balls flying through the air is going to grow exponentially. Okay, so who would like to volunteer to come and set this off? My goodness. Let's have you there. Yep. Guess you'd like to make your way along the edge of the road. If you'd like to come and stand just there. Just turn that way. Okay, that's good. What's your name? Matthew. Matthew, I'd like to hold that.
Matthew.
In a moment, we're going to give you a 3, 2, 1 countdown. Okay. When we get to go, all I want you to do is to place the ball in through that little hole at the top. You manage that? Yeah? Okay. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Amazing. Excellent. Thank you very much. So we have a high-speed camera that was looking at that, and perhaps we can just do a little action replay and see that in slow motion. So there's the first ball, setting off a couple more. Each of those is setting off several more. And on that curve, we can see the number of balls growing in this very dramatic way. But what's really impressive about exponential growth is that the rate of growth is itself growing exponentially. Ball growing in this, and on that curve we can see the number.
The rate of growth is growing exponentially. So first of all, the poor sucker that had to set up all those mouse traps, I can't imagine what that looked like. I was kind of going through it in my head of what could have happened with that. But anyways, they look kind of like a different sort of mouse trap. But the growth itself is growing exponentially. And so we saw that a couple balls off the start, we're setting off a few different mouse traps. And then more and more, you can see it resembles this chart perfectly. And this is how I see Bitcoin. This is how I see people becoming aware of the reality outside of our little window. It starts off very small and it takes a while for it to catch on. But once it starts catching on, it's a very steep upward slope. And that is the exponential growth that I believe we're living through right now. And it's very exciting to me in terms of the only way that I believe that we move on as a humanity is through truth. And Bitcoin is part of that. Bitcoin is fixed, is transparent. It's known. The supply in the future is known, and anybody can use it. So these two things tie together in the sense that we're witnessing this all firsthand right now, and we're part of this. I don't know where we are on this chart right now, but at some point, this spark is going to turn into a fire, and I think that's when things will get very interesting. So speaking of that, I'm wearing the exact same shirt and hat. I didn't even realize that. Anyways, I wanted to quickly talk about this in case there's new viewers to the channel who haven't come across this yet, but we're doing an experiment mixing golf and Bitcoin, and we're looking for 88 founders, the original 88. Everybody's going to contribute a small amount of Bitcoin into this wallet. We're going to sit on it for 5, 7, 10 years, and we're going to hopefully at the end of it purchase a golf course. The People's Course it's going to be called. And so a few key points to this is that the founding members are going to be the ones who decide the direction of the fund. Everybody's going to vote on every significant decision. So it's going to be fully decentralized. It's going to be fully transparent. Everybody's going to have access to the wallet. They can see every transaction going in and out of it. So there's not going to be any sort of funny business, SBF, FTX kind of stuff happening. And we're going to grow a network and a community of people, like-minded people, and watch this play out. And we're going to have a platform eventually set up where people can go in there and put in what they do, what their business is, and we can support each other that way. And I think that it'll be a lot of fun to cheer on Bitcoin, see how far we can take it, see how much it'll grow. And the reason I want to talk about this now is because of the exponential growth aspect of this. So how I believe we can take $200 each and convert that into a golf course in 10 years is because if we look back 10 years ago from today, Bitcoin was $5. Today, it's worth $18,000. And there are reasons for that. Our dollar has diminished you could say Bitcoin went up or our dollar has gone down that much. Either way, Bitcoin has gone from $5 to $18. And so in the next 10 years, using that same exact ratio prediction, we can expect Bitcoin to be worth $64 million in the next 10 years, which sounds very crazy. And it is. But that also doesn't include the exponential growth factor, because I still believe that we're in the very small part of that graph where it's basically flat, growing slowly. And then over time, the exponential part comes in. And that's where things get very exciting. And I'm hoping that we can time this properly. We can get some cheap Satoshi, some very cheap Bitcoin right now, sit on it, make some good decisions with it, and eventually purchase a golf course or more in 10 years from now. And of course, might not happen. We have no idea what kind of regulation, government interventions are going to come in. And we will have safeguards in place in case something happens like that, where everybody, the 88 founders, will vote on what we do then. And if that happens after 5 years and we want to keep waiting 6 years, but hopefully at the end of 10 years, we'll have enough to purchase a golf course. So I'm going to put the the email address. I'm going to link this video below, and I'm going to put an email address. If anybody's listening to this and wants to either get more information or contribute to the fund as a founder, it's going to be really exciting, I think, to see what happens with this. So I'll leave both of those below, and you can just send me an email saying, hey, I'm interested in the 88 sats experiment. What do I do? Also, another thing that happened this week that hardly got any sort of attention from the media is that scientists discovered a nuclear fusion that could basically unlock limited energy source. Okay, didn't have that one on the bingo card this year. But could you imagine we had a power source, and who knows how long this will take to fully see through into the future. Most people are talking 10 years where we can fully utilize this type of energy, but this is massive. And it seems like the majority of people just have no clue about this kind of stuff. And I mean, myself, I'm not familiar with energy. I'm trying to learn as much as I can because Bitcoin ties a lot into energy itself and how we can use the energy, wasted energy, renewable energy to mine Bitcoin, whether that's through methane gas, through volcanic energy, through hydro, or nuclear. Imagine we had free energy creating Bitcoin for the world. What would a world look like that? It's minus 38 degrees here. I'm going to wrap things up in just a sec. I always end the show with something I've come across, something cool, whether it's a device, a product, a resource, a website, an app. And this is the heat bit. It's minus 38 degrees outside. We need some heat as much as we can get. And I want to credit my good buddy Dal for sending me this. But it's a heater that you plug into your house. It's a portable heater that mines Bitcoin. So they start at, I think this is American, about $1,200 American. It says it covers 100% of your electricity bills, but that seems wrong to me. But what was I looking at here? So there's a few different styles. I'm personally a fan of the orange one. Where was that? Oh, okay, maybe I must have missed it along the way. Anyways, basically what this heater is it has a Bitcoin mining machine. It has the chips, microchips in it, and it's mining Bitcoin within this portable unit. And there's a filtration system or a heating system that utilizes that heat and gives it off to the house. Oh, that's what I was looking at. This right here, estimate your earnings. So you can estimate how much Bitcoin you can get back per month. So let's say we have it plugged in. So we're running 24 hours a day. And Bitcoin right now is about, oh, you can't do that. $20,000, go with that. So you're making $30 per month. Not ideal, not that great actually. But I mean, Bitcoin goes to $30 or 30,000 US, goes to 40. And you can start to see how this could pay for your electricity. You're heating your house, you're earning Bitcoin. And even if you don't spend this money on your electricity bill, you just hodl the Bitcoin. And then we get to $100,000. You're making $150 a month. What happens when it gets to 64 million bucks at the end of 2032? They don't have that on this chart. So that is the heat bit. That's actually pretty cool. I wish I had $1,200 to buy one. I think that these will become more and more popular as we go through the Bitcoin cycle here. But I'm going to get off of this here. Get back to full version me. That was the news show. This is a long one, but whatever. I think there was some good information. I'm hoping you learned something, as always, from these news shows. And I'll end it with a few different things here. The first thing is that, I mean, most people don't make it to this part of the video, judging by the analytics. But the first thing I'm going to propose is in the next couple weeks and into the new year, I'm going to be putting out a new video series called A Beginner's Guide to Bitcoin, something along those lines. But it's going to be like an 4-part video series walking you through what is Bitcoin, how to buy Bitcoin, how to store Bitcoin safely, things to avoid, things to watch out for, resources you can trust. And finally, I'm going to wrap it up with a full video Q&A session. So that's going to compile all the emails I receive through the channel here in the comments below, through email and through the Instagram page. So I'm going to compile all those questions together. I'm going to have a full show of answers, because usually if there's one person asking a question, there's a lineup of people behind them wondering the same thing. So I think that's going to bring a lot of value to people. If you have any questions yourself about Bitcoin, about NFTs, about silver, any of this stuff we've been talking about, send me an email below. I'll put that email address as well. It's silverstonesca@protonmail.com. You're going to be flooded with links and email addresses below. But point is, leave a comment below or email me. And I'm going to, like I said, put all these questions together, do a video on the answers. And what else did I leave out here? The reason I'm doing this at this point is because it was 2 years ago to this day almost when I really started digging into Bitcoin. And I had some Bitcoin before that. I had some Theta, but I really didn't understand Bitcoin as much as I should have. And so I think that the holiday season is a great time to explore this kind of stuff. And into the new year, people are motivated. They want to see change in their life. And maybe if they've been putting off Bitcoin for some months now, which there are a lot of people who I've talked to said, I want to learn more about this, and then I don't hear from them again. So if you want some time away from your in-laws, if you just need some peace and quiet, if you have a couple of days off this holiday season into the new year, when it's minus 38 degrees outside, this is the time to be learning about this stuff. And market sentiment right now is pretty low. The price is extremely low as well. It's compared to last year at this time, it was about $69,000. So these are the times where you want to get into Bitcoin. Instead of waiting for everybody to try to jam through the same door at once. Whoa, sorry about that. It's always something. But just be somebody who smells the smoke and just leaves. Goes through the exit, gets a bit of Bitcoin, starts learning about it, and then you don't have to worry about the huge crowd trying to jam through that same door when things really get interesting here. What else? I think that's it. I was gonna do this whole video series on Patreon, but I decided to put it on the YouTube channel for free for people, because I really just want people to reduce all the friction, eliminate all the excuses. If you've been wanting to get into Bitcoin, now is the perfect time to be doing it. There's so many indicators around the world for this. All you have to do is just open your eyes and open your mind a little bit to it. And if you have been enjoying this channel, if you've been liking these videos, make sure press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share these with some friends if you think that they're applicable to whatever they're doing, whatever you're trying to help them out with, help them uncover. The more and more people who are talking about this, that's the power of exponential growth. So I appreciate you. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and you get to spend some time with friends and family and enjoy every second of that. We'll talk to you soon. I don't know how many videos I'm going to be doing on the next couple of weeks other than the new series, but we'll see. So if I don't talk to you, have the best Christmas of your life. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.